Hey, friend. I am so excited about this new series called the Difference Maker series. This is just for you, the bold believer who is ready to get out of your comfort zone and start living fully into God's call on your life. And now I'm going to be bringing some incredible messages through this. I'm going to be bringing in special guests, some that are going to have stories that will inspire you. Some of them are going to have skill sets that you're going to need as you grow into that difference maker that God's called you to have. And today, I have an incredible guest. Her name is Kristen Hartnagel, and she was one of the founding members of the amazing company, the Brand Builders. Brand Builders is a company that helps you build your personal brand. And I'm going to be honest, when I looked at her speaker kit, I was like, oh my goodness, almost everything you do is something that this audience is going to love. So we cover several spaces, but the main thing that Kristen does is she helps people build into their thought leadership to go from unknown to being known. And as a believer called by God, we have to be visible. As much as we would love to say, I just want to pray God's will. And yes, we do. And prayer makes a difference. It also means that we have to up into our spaces. We have to quit playing small and we have to speak up and show Christ. God wants us to represent. As a matter of fact, isn't it He that sent the disciples two by two? He went out and spoke to people, and Jesus drew crowds. That is not an ego thing. We need to draw crowds too with the word. So, if you're ready to be a difference maker, then you're going to want to follow this series. It's going to be amazing. Would you welcome Kristen Hartnagel? Hello. I am so excited about this interview. I cannot tell you. Kristen, I have been digging into your media kit, and honest to goodness, everything I read, I was like, oh my goodness, my audience would love this. Oh my goodness, this would give such breakthrough. For those of you who are watching right now, I can't tell you how glad I am you are on this journey with us. And I believe that today's conversation is going to make a huge difference in you taking action in what God's created you to do. And so, if you are feeling stuck, if you are feeling like you are just whirling around in what you know to do and what you actually do during the day, you need to stay tuned because today's going to be super good. Kristen, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Oh my gosh, such an honor to speak with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. Well, Kristen and I actually connected through Brand Builders, which is a group out of Nashville, Tennessee, where they are helping me build my own personal brand. And I know many of you who are watching, that is actually your goal as well. So I want you to listen really close because when we get to the end, I'm going to have Kristen share a little bit about how you might be able to connect also and start the same journey that I have been on. Kristen, let's start with something fun. You're part of a rock band. I didn't know that from our first conversation. All of my kids are musicians. My husband was a musician. They would all want to tell you that I'm a musician, but I'm not. I fight for every note I get. I sing with them, but yeah. So I just wanted to say, rock on. Let's go. All girl band. Tell me about that.
Well, I have been a singer all my life, and there's just nothing that fills my heart more than being able to do something with my time that allows me to express with wild abandon and to be on stage with these six other women where we are just rocking it out to mostly songs from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It's just a time to let loose, and I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Oh man, and that's when music was music. I'm just saying. So when my 19-year-old son is still pulling from the classics, right? And he's a guitarist. He loves it. Well, that's amazing. I'm so glad you put that in your media kit because I was like, that's so cool. So I know part of many of my audience are many of them are new coaches. They're building their brands, trying to niche. We all know that's a hard thing. And some of them maybe even thinking they're niche down and maybe not. So let's talk personal brand for a moment and why that's important.
Absolutely. I think that even the definition of a personal brand has evolved so much in more recent years. I mean, 10 years ago, it was in everybody's mind that the only people who should have a personal brand are like the Kardashian wannabes, the people that are just wanting to get a lot of social media attention. But the
Mhm.
truth is, we actually did an independent study called Trends in Personal Branding. And
Mhm.
one of the data points that it revealed is that people actually trust people that have a personal brand over just people that are CEOs or parts of companies where it's the company that has the reputation.
Wow.
So it's influencing the way we make buying decisions.
Mm.
And so to break that down, we used to want to do business with companies whose products we believed in. But now we've been burned and jaded by so many people who are doing things uncharacteristic of the way we want to behave or the way we think it's okay to behave that if I don't know who you are and what you stand for, but I
Yeah.
can see clearly that this is a company whose leaders are vocal about who they are and what they stand for, I'm going to back them because I'm really looking for people to align with that have values that align with my values. And so I think if you're not leveraging the power of a personal brand, people are gravitating towards people that they can know on a more intimate level
Mm.
because people do business with people that they trust. And if I don't know enough about you, how do I know if I trust you? So we're kind of helping people to recognize you have a personal brand, whether you believe you do or not, because a personal brand is your reputation. And you are
Mm.
either intentionally shaping your reputation or it's already out there without intention. So, what is it that people think of when they think of you?
Wow, that's so good. And I remember the first time I ever heard that, and I think it was from Rory and BBG for sure, that our personal brand is our reputation. And there was this piece that came to me because I was thinking it was like being exposed or having my personal life out there too much. And of course, we've seen on socials, there's some stuff out there that I think, "Oh, that probably should have stayed at home and not on your social feed," right? So, how do you know what part you're sharing of yourself where you're not really just exposing yourself or just, like you said, the Kardashians, where you're sharing your entire life, right? What does that look like in a business?
Yeah, good question. Because honestly, it is not just sharing what I had for breakfast. It's not posting where I take my kids shopping. It's really not that. Like it's okay to share some personal things because people love to feel like they have a kind of glimpse behind the curtain at
Mhm.
what makes you tick. But when you think about how you do business, what is unique about the way you serve people? What
Mm.
is the problem that your avatar, your clients, your customers, the people that you're trying to do business with, what problem do you solve for them?
Mm.
And if you know the problem that you solve for them and your unique way of solving that problem, in other words, if you know how to answer the question, why should I work with you over anybody else who does the same thing?
Mhm.
That's what we want to have on social media. We want to be expressing our thought leadership in the way that we solve the problem that we solve. So, having been through Brand Builders Group, there's
Mhm.
a lot of layers to this work. We
Mhm.
need to help you draw out what you already know because you know who you serve, but can we refine that to a one person avatar? Can we
Mhm.
really distill, because you solve a lot of problems, can we distill what is the one word problem that your avatar will feel and
Mhm.
be drawn to you? If you can express the problem you solve, they're going to assume that you have the answer.
Mhm.
And so the clearer we get about that, then we're going to lay out how do you solve the problem? And those are the things I want to express on social media. I want to say, I see you. I know you have this problem. I can relate to this problem. Here's one way I would go about solving that problem. And that's giving value. So
Mhm.
your personal brand is establishing you as the go-to person in your space to solve that problem in a unique way that only you can do.
So, what do you say to the person? Because I get this all the time, right? That says, "Man, if I lock myself in, that's gonna make it where I can't help some people." Or if I really niche down, what about all those other people that what I know could help, and they get caught in that that spiral.
Yes, that's a huge misconception that getting clear on a one person avatar means that you are alienating everybody else.
Mm,
Here's the truth. Everything we're talking about in a personal brand is so that your signal is so clear it cannot be misunderstood. When you
yes.
have a clear signal and you're talking to one person, the people who are the right fit see themselves in that story.
Mhm,
Whereas when we're generalizing, when we're in fear that I'm afraid if I niche down, I'm going to make people think that I don't have what they need. And really, everybody in the whole world could benefit from what I do. That
mhm,
may be the truth. But marketing, if you're using language that appeals that you're trying to appeal to everybody, you end
mhm.
up appealing to nobody because nobody can relate to generalizations. You're
Wow.
out there speaking in general terms, and people are like, oh, good for you. You help those people. They're not going, oh my gosh, that's meant for me.
Wow.
Just like you feel when you're watching a movie that you're in the movie. And you know this to be true because your palms get sweaty and your breathing gets shallow. Your body does not know the difference that you are not literally going through that. Well,
Mhm,
if you're talking to the world, you don't get that vibe. You don't get that feeling. It's too general and surface and shallow. But if you used your personal brand to talk to me as if I'm sitting on the couch right next to me and you really deeply know me,
mhm,
all of those people can see themselves in that story, just like their body thinks that they're in the movie. That's why
wow.
we really want to niche down because the clearer you can be to the one person, the more you're drawing in the others that are like that.
It's huge. I notice that when my clients begin to really niche down and they begin to share with me in that, then all of a sudden I start to see people. I'm like, oh, so and so needs to talk to you. Oh, so and so. It's almost like when you really get there, then people can start referring you, which is another whole powerful conversation we could have about referrals and empowering people. But I, I think that's when I know that niche is powerful. Not only am I being able to express my niche, but someone else could literally express it because it's that clear. Would you say
Good
that too?
point. Yeah, honestly, because if you're thinking about how somebody might help you by introducing you or referring you to somebody and
Mhm,
you ask them for help, imagine this funnel with thousands of people that they know. And when
mhm,
you say, I could help anybody because everybody on the whole planet would benefit from what I do,
mhm,
they can't delineate. They can't
mm.
discern which of these people that I know floating around up here in thought soup would be a good fit for you. But if
Right.
you can explain that person like they're your best buddy sitting next to you on the couch, that funnel is going to close shut on an actual human being, and that's how they can help you. So the
Mhm.
more clear you are, the more specific you can be, the more easily somebody can help you out.
Yeah.
Good
Huge.
point.
So, what do you think are some pieces that people, if they're struggling niching or they're struggling bringing their messaging down, or even struggling with the thoughts of personal branding, what are some things that they could at least just start unpacking that?
Well, Simon Sinek is famous for saying start with why, and I love being connected to your purpose. But we truly believe at Brand Builders Group that you start with who. Who are you being called to serve?
Wow.
And when you get clear on that avatar, like we've been discussing, you're going from the whole world to a core target audience, to a single human being. And if
Mhm.
you can get into, climb inside their head and their heart, what are the psychographics? What are their limiting beliefs? What are
Wow.
their passions? When you get to know that person, then everything builds upon that. What how would that person be articulating a problem that you know you can solve? Now,
Mhm.
after we do that, just the first steps in personal branding is getting clear on the who, and then the what problem do you solve, and then the how. So
Yes.
if you've been through captivating content, kind of pulling out Well, this is kind of what I take people through. When they
Mm,
start, they know nothing, and they end and they know everything. I move
mhm,
them through these things, whether they're principles or whether they're steps. And so
mhm,
we really help distinguish thought leadership so
mhm.
that what you're saying is so compelling and repeatable. That's
Wow.
how you kind of create foot soldiers from your social media, is that people see the value and they start repeating your message because your message is so clear. Not only is it so clear that you understand it, it's so clear that it can't be misunderstood.
Wow, that's so good. That turns everything upside down on its head, like what you just said. And it's funny because Myron Golden also kind of touts that in a different way. And when I first heard it, I was like, okay, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Because early in my coaching, I would coach people to start with their why, right? What is it that you feel inside? What is it? But the truth is, even if we were just looking at sales, um, if you can find a group of people that have a really big problem that you can fix, you don't have to sell then, right? And I love what Myron says. He said, then obsess over fixing the problem. I think I was listening to Alex Hermosi's 100 million leads to this morning, and he was talking about you can have not the best hot dog, but if you're in front of thousands of hungry people, you're going to sell out. So it almost, if you start with your why, then you're building, yeah, you're building from a place that maybe you're passionate about. But if you start with your who, I mean, what you just said, I was like, it turns it absolutely on its head.
Yeah, and it addresses something else, something that is very pervasive in the entrepreneurial world and in sales. It's like, I need this. And so when we come from a place of I,
Mhm.
then the way people perceive me, I'm too wrapped up in my image. And if you're coming from a place of service, how
Yeah.
can I give value? In fact, Brain Builders Group believes that if you give away everything you know,
Mhm.
then that's value, because people
Mhm.
don't pay for information. They pay for application and organization and what you can help them do, because anymore you can learn absolutely anything on, AI, Google, whatever. So I don't need you for information. I need the way you apply or organize that. And
Mhm.
so your purpose is amazing. I want you to know your why, but your purpose is also keeping you here within and
Mhm.
focused on you. And I want you to convert that purpose into service.
Wow. Wow. There's just a whole lot in that right there. That's huge. And you touched on something big, which you hear quite often from new entrepreneurs, that what do I keep behind the paywall? What do I put in front of the paywall? And which is a totally wrong question to even ask. Kristen just answered you. They don't pay for information. Google gives them information, right? So huge. So, so good. I do want to hit on the quote that I was telling you about before. Part of what a lot of the audience feels, and you guys, you can comment below if you agree, because I feel it too. And actually, when I read the quote that Kristen's going to share in a minute, I realized it actually took the quote into the next few days and really just paid attention. And that is that 85% of our thoughts, I'm not going to get it quite right, so you may have to repeat it, Kristen, but 85% of our thoughts are repetitive, and that the majority of those are actually negative. I think it was like, or something like that. And I thought, is that true? And so for the next few days, I was really aware of my thoughts, and I know the power of thoughts. I know, I mean, because the word of God tells us that we're supposed to take every thought captive, because we know that that power then, either sets us up or breaks us down. Um, and I was quite shocked at how much repetitiveness was in my thoughts
Mm.
and how much of those were actually on the negative bent more than the positive bent. And I would actually say I'm a pretty positive person.
Yes. I too claim to be a very joy-filled, joyful person. And there's science that shows that our thoughts are really in patterns. It's
Mhm.
way easier for your brain to think a thought that it's thought before than it
Mhm.
is for it to blaze a new neural pathway.
Yes.
So that's what's called conditioning. We heard something, we believed something, we kept thinking about that thing, and now we've got a neural pathway that a thought travels down.
Wow.
I want people to know you are not your thoughts.
Wow.
Most of your thoughts are on autopilot, and your
Mm.
brain is just doing its job. The job of the brain is to think thoughts. And so,
Yes.
if we can become the witness to our thoughts, that's when we can detach who we are from our thoughts. And so, the quote is research shows that 95% of our thoughts are repetitive
Wow.
and 80% of them are negative.
Mm.
Without awareness, we keep reliving the past instead of creating the future.
Wow.
So, here's what I like to talk about that scientifically. I want you to think of like water doesn't exert any effort to flow upstream. It seeks the path of least resistance. And that is what our brain is doing. It's like, oh, here's a pathway. I'm just going to think that thought again. So
Mm.
if you've got negative thoughts and nobody doesn't have negative thoughts,
Mhm.
then those are the things that it's kind of doing on autopilot. And
Mm.
if you can bring awareness and witness the thoughts and stop the thought and say, wait a minute, who is benefiting from that? What
Mhm.
good is that thought actually doing? Is that helping me serve more people? Is that helping me move forward in my life?
Mhm.
And but I love for us not to get angry at our thoughts. If we could detach with amusement and
Mhm.
go and just kind of see our brain as an innocent baby, like it's just doing its job. It's not trying to throw me for a curve or put obstacles in my way. It's just doing its job. So they're their little brain. You're just thinking thoughts you always think. But
Mhm.
I'm not going to like pull up a chair and watch that movie again.
Wow.
I'm
Wow. Yes.
unavailable for this loop. I am unavailable to be stuck in this pattern. I now recognize this pattern, and instead, I want to think something else.
Mhm.
So, detaching with amusement is this way that you can be light about it. Because I find when people become aware that they're not their thoughts, they start to get mad at themselves. They think, I should be
Oh,
thinking positive thoughts. I
right.
should be more, in touch with that. And so when they catch a negative thought, they're like, oh, shoot, there was and that kind of judgment just makes it
Mhm.
worse. So be
Yeah.
light about it.
Oh, I love that thought. I love that. I heard someone say one time, and I just put it together when you were saying it. Take that thought and look at it. And I think that that feeling of doing it makes you not own it, right? You realize. I love how you said they're their brain. You're just doing what you do, right? I
Yeah.
was thinking, okay, I need that because I can get pretty hard on myself. I'm a little a strung, and have a tendency like just buck up and change that. So, what would you say would be a first step for someone they're saying, I want to change some of my thoughts?
Mm. Well, I have this three-step process. So let me just go through them quickly. The first one we already talked about, and that was be the witness to your brain, detach with amusement.
Mm-hmm.
Second step is to reduce to the ridiculous. Pull that thought all the way out and say, what
Oh,
is this thought?
wow.
And here's what I want you to know. If you are standing on a timeline and time could unfold in an infinite number of ways, you're focused on one way
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably not a good way. So pull it all the way to the negative. What is
Mm-hmm.
the worst that could happen? Like, really understand that this thought has power over you. What is the worst that could happen is what I'm kind of underlying worried about. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you recognize, well, that's ridiculous, it's never going to happen, then
Mm-hmm.
give it like equal playing field, like level that playing field by then thinking, what is the best that could possibly happen? And no,
Wow.
that's equally ridiculous. It's not going to happen. But the more I can focus on what I would want rather than what I don't want, I'm going to pull that towards the positive
Mm-hmm.
and kind of leave that negative space behind.
Wow.
So detach with amusement, reduce to the ridiculous. And then
Mm-hmm.
the third step is to invest wisely. Understand that your thoughts are like currency. It's
Mm-hmm.
like coins, and you're constantly depositing into something. Most of us are depositing into something we don't want more of. But
Right.
now that I've
Wow.
pulled it all the way to the positive, can I deposit my thought coins into what I want more of? Can I be intentional? Can I witness my thoughts spending weaving an imaginative future that I would really want to be a part of. We don't
Mhm.
use imagination like we could because our thoughts become things.
Wow. Wow. Huge, huge, huge. And now you see why Kristen is on this interview with me. Um, and I pray that you really take this in because, everybody that is listening to this, they're drawn to the series because of desiring, knowing that they feel called, desiring that they really make a difference with their life. I remember a few years ago standing there and seeing the life of someone that I dearly love and seeing the difference that their life had made while they were here on this earth. It's what my husband used to call the dash, right? This is the date you're born and this is the date you die, and there's this little dash, which is probably the most important part, the difference that you're going to make in the world. And things like your thought patterns can keep you from moving forward. I would say most of the people that I meet they have this vision, they desire these things, but they have this inaction, right?
Mm.
Um, or they can't. It's one of the things that I love about what's going on with me and brand builders is that you guys, just like you said, have helped me structure all the things in my head and all the things in my heart and the people that and help me understand the people that I serve in such a way. It made it so much easier for me to express that and draw the right people to me because now I know them. So, how would someone then connect with you and maybe start that process?
Well, we offer what's called a brand strategy session. And
Yes.
so I would give your listeners a free brand strategy session with me or somebody from our team where
Awesome.
they could. So I would love to know, where are you? What are your goals? And just explore whether building a personal brand would help you get to where you want to go or not. And
Yeah,
so that's a free brand call. So they can go to freebrandcall.com/KH, which stands for Kristen Hartnagel, and we can set up that call.
I love that. I love that. And I just encourage you. It was one of the best calls that I've made. And if you're at that space where you're like, I know that there's just this glass wall, which we could go into that, but there's this glass wall that I can't seem to break. That's what Brand Builders does, and they've done it for many names that you've studied, you've listened to. They've helped them. The reason you know them is because of brand builders. So I would just encourage you to take that call. Kristen, thank you so much. I know we dove into lots of different subjects here, but um, looking at your media kit, I was like, I can't not talk about that. I can't not talk about that.
Well, it's been so fun, Francine. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Make sure you like and subscribe and connect. I think that this is the very first interview for this series. And so I hope that you'll be back because we will continue to interview. We're going to bring lots of things to the table as you begin to step out and be the difference maker that you are called to be.